From rags to riches, we are the trade gods. Guess who's rich now? Brock Purdy, $53 million a year rich. Brock Purdy, Ricky Pearsall in the trade. We have 12-team superflex, start 9, 1 PPR, 0.5 tight end premium Chev. Got a little bit of a Spider-Man meme going on. It's Purdy, it's Pearsall for Jordan Love and Jayden Reed. I like and see the Jayden Reed advantage over Ricky Pearsall, even though Ricky Pearsall had a wide receiver 7 and 14 finish those final 2 weeks last season. Small sample size, extrapolate. Brock Purdy, QB 10 in fantasy points per game last year, QB 14 finish overall. We had Jordan Love fall a little bit last year, but then you have first half of the season Jayden Reed. That's very tough to ignore. What's more true with Jayden Reed here to carry this trade? Jayden Reed of the first half of last year or the second half? What side do you have, Chev?
Oh, it's pretty easy. Brock Purdy and Ricky Pearsall for this one. And that just really comes down to me to being Brock Purdy, that I prefer Brock Purdy to Jordan Love. And I think Biggs mentioned that shout out to our boy Biggs, by the way.
Hey,
Biggs mentioned that Brock Purdy since 2022 was 6th in EPA per drop back. Last year he was 9th in deep attempts. I mean, he's the complete quarterback, and he's tied to Kyle Shanahan. Now, Jordan Love is tied to Matt LaFleur, which is great. But there was a stark difference when they went from pass heavy post Vikings game where he threw for 389, 4-3, and then they switched to about 25th in drop back rate, and then they won. They went from 2-2 to finishing the season with 11 wins. So once they leaned on Josh Jacobs, so I'm gonna bet on Purdy. They've started to make that shift. Now he's going to become more of the focal point and not just the conduct, more so of a conductor than he was a bus driver at times. And he still has the more complete cabinet of weapons, if you're asking me. Brandon Ayuk's going to be back. Ricky Pearsall flashed. George Kittle is the only tight end ever to go for 1,000 yards in back-to-back seasons on less than 100 targets. There's no way, shape, or form that you can get me to accept this Jordan Love and Jayden Reed side.
I would say with the Packers and the Niners are dressed up Green Bay Packers as far as the receiver core because it's a little bit flattened, and we're looking for who can get the most out of the wide receiver position in San Francisco. We think it's Brandon Ayuk. Can Brandon Ayuk go up to 130, 140 targets and get that high volume season that we would love? Deebo Samuel is out of the way. Juwan Jennings, I look at receiver finish of 10 1 week, and then it's 53, it's 27, it's 48. It's too inconsistent for me, so I need to be sold a little bit more on Juwan Jennings. But I'm with you where it is Pearsall and Purdy that clear, Love and Reed. The best player in this situation could be Jayden Reed, but that's very much an if, and that's only a half season extrapolation that we have. Brock Purdy, though, carries as far as positional value, super flex. Who do I think is better? If I had to rank these players, I'd go Purdy, Reed, Pearsall. The light is still on for Pearsall, and Jordan Love, who are tied. So give me Purdy at the quarterback position. You get more weight at the quarterback position with Brock Purdy value in a super flex league. So I'm going to go with Brock Purdy. Funny enough, in passing explosive EPX rating, Purdy last year was first. Jordan Love was fourth. And these are pass plays 20 yards or more. It's a metric that we have at Player Profiler. And then for Jordan Love, you made a good point. 30th in team pass plays per game last year, QB 17 last year. The problem is both are zeros in the rushing game, but Love, the throw rate for the Packers, very concerning. What's not concerning is what we had for Josh Jacobs last year. He was just running down teams' throats. And if you were going up against Josh Jacobs, no pause there. If you were going up against Josh Jacobs, you were very much sweating. And then if you had him, you were just laying back. I remember that game against the Saints. I was petrified when I had to face Josh Jacobs. I did not have any faith in that Saints defense right around Christmas time. Next up, we have a mega deal. Again, rags to riches. The pay rate for Josh Allen and Brock Purdy is very close now. Brock Purdy, $53 million a year. We actually found a trade, Chev, that is lopsided, and this is from Dynasty Daddy. Shout out to Jeremy and all the great work he does. 12-team superflex, start 9, 1 PPR, 0.5 tight end premium. Josh Allen, 26 second. It's lopsided in favor of T. Higgins, A.J. Brown, Brock Purdy, 109. Chev, is this not the dream package that you would want if you've got Allen and you just want to improve your team tremendously? Maybe he's your anchor player to dig you out of a hole where you're in the bottom tier, maybe barely scraping in the middle half, and you want to catapult up in your league. What do you say?
Yes. So, yes, for me, this is what it would take for me to be willing to move off of Josh Allen. So, Brock Purdy comes in. I mean, he has a bit of a down year. He has expected touchdown regression from the 7% touchdown rate in 2023. It regresses a little bit in 2024, but that also has a little bit more to do with the fact that he was without some of his best weapons, and he was left with fat Debo. So, no Christian McCaffrey, Brandon Ayuk's gone for half the season, and you only have fat Debo. So I'm looking at it from the perspective that we're going to regress a little bit more towards the mean. Brock Purdy did give you 320 yards and 5 touchdowns rushing last year. And one of his underrated aspects is being able to create now, extend plays and create outside of the pocket, not in the way that Josh Allen can, but there is only one Josh Allen. Insert random chant there. So if I'm going to tear down from Josh Allen, which is a tough ask because you're 25 points a game is walking out the door, but I can go to 18 and then I can add a wide receiver 1 in AJ Brown, the 3rd overall in points per game in 2024 in T. Higgins, and then I can get into that. I can get into that range where it's 0.5 tight end premium. That could very easily be Colston Loveland or RJ Harvey. Yes, that's the type of package that it would absolutely take to acquire Josh Allen from a team that I have him on.
Now, some excitement for Josh Allen. 6 straight years, played 16 or more games. He's durable. So if you're just on the side of just getting Josh Allen, imagine saying that just Josh Allen and this 26 second, you want some assurances that Allen will be healthy. I see him continuing, Josh Allen, the next 4 years like a presidential term, continuing up to about age 32, 33, where it's going to be this rushing threat that Josh Allen is. Hasn't missed a game in 4 years. I had to double take when I saw that.
Exactly.
29th, though, in team pass plays a game last year. Not too far off from who we just mentioned, the Green Bay Packers. And then remember, the Eagles were 32nd. The Bills, do not pass near enough right now, but it hasn't mattered. 5th in QB rushing yards last season, 531. 2nd in rushing touchdowns for Josh Allen. The tush push is still happening in 2025, but 12 is tremendous double-digit touchdowns for Josh Allen. Built different, but to your point, A.J. Brown still hit 1,000 yards receiving last year in 13 games when the Eagles, just like the Bills, were 32nd in team pass plays attempts per game. A.J. Brown, number 1 in our EPX explosive rate, 2nd in target share, 2nd in air yard share, and then over on Fast Draft, Where do you think you would select A.J. Brown?
I got him in the 4th of a draft that I just did.
Right now,
that's incredible value.
Right now, A.J. Brown, you can get him pick 19 overall, just behind Jonathan Taylor and just ahead of Drake London.
I'm fine with that. AJ Brown's one of the most. So I don't know how that happened to where I was able to get him in the 4th round of the 3rd round. Pardon me, the 3rd round of one of those drafts. But I'd be fine. I don't want him above Drake London because just the amount of dropbacks, the stark difference between the amount of dropbacks in what Atlanta is going to do and what the Philadelphia Eagles are going to do is that's a bridge too far for me. But we're talking AJ Brown being one of the most efficient targets in the entire NFL over the course of his tenure as a Philadelphia Eagle. He was on pace for another 1,400 yards. He goes for 1,000 yards in 13 games and, a career low 5 touchdowns. So if we get that back up between, he had 11 his first year in Philadelphia, he had 7 the second year. He has 5 in 13 games this year because Saquon Barkley got tackled at the 1-yard line 11 times. So if we can just get a little bit of positive regression, that becomes more of a conversation. But right now, I'd have to take Drake London.
And you did speak to, and heading back over to this trade, you did speak to T. Higgins, 18.5 points per game was 5th last year, 11 games played. Can we get closer to 17? You don't even need 17 to make this deal still lopsided. Give me 14 games for T. Higgins. A.J. Brown, Brock Purdy, you got to tear down. This is a perfect tear down, like you said. You could really overhaul your team entirely. And speaking of rehauling, trying to make sure that you're on the up and up in Dynasty, we got something from the Podfather.
If you play in Dynasty, you need Dynasty Deluxe, our premium package for Dynasty Leaguers. We rank over 300 players, updated every week, all year long. And there's a win now mode and a rebuild mode with superflex and tight end premium controls. And a Dynasty League sync where you can say, sync down all of my sleeper teams, all my FFPC teams. And then you can browse around your leagues for who has needs. And then you can use our trade finder to see what kinds of trades are happening in leagues that are similar to the one I want to do. Then you can analyze trades using our trade analyzer, which balances the lifetime value, which includes picked values out to like 2028. All of that plus the rookie guide, $25 value is included. So if you're just in one Dynasty League, Dynasty Deluxe is well worth it. And use your host's promo code, and you can bump up to all in and get $25 off.
Hey, thank you, Podfather. Now, make sure you're going and finding these trades that we've been talking about with Brock Purdy. Tell us how you feel in the comments. Like, subscribe. If you love the show, share it. It goes a long way for us. But by all means, look out for some bonus trades that we post in the comments. And please share some trades that you've been having with liquidity with the Brock Purdy signing. So I always notice when there's player movement, whether it's that signature security that Brock Purdy has, that's going to make people just more likely to want to trade for him. So that can create some liquidity. Now, trying to create liquidity in this trade here, Chev, 12-team super flex, we have Nico Collins, bona fide stud for a 26 first and DJ Moore. It's lopsided to the 63% to 37%, so it's close to 60-40. Nico Collins is the clear hammer wide receiver in this situation. DJ Moore, 28 years old, still has a lot going for him. Luther Burden right now dealing with a soft tissue injury. These reps definitely matter. 98 receptions in 2024, 3rd in yards after catch in 2024. DJ Moore, 5th in target separation. Get DJ Moore in space. I trust Ben Johnson to utilize him more. I don't buy that DJ Moore is out the door. Some people do. 2025 DJ Moore, he's going to get the first crack at the top job and run with it. The question is, Chev, do you agree with that? And also, in this deal, a 26-1 and DJ Moore, what more do you need to add for Nico Collins?
It would have to be at least another second in order to even this out a bit. Nico Collins is the hammer. I mean, we're talking about a guy who also, just like A.J. Brown, missed some time, played one less game, 12 games, right at 100 targets, 68 receptions, 1,000 yards, 7 touchdowns. He was leading the league in fantasy points per game throughout, those first 5 weeks of the season before he goes to IR. I mean, he was number 5 in receiving EPX. So I'm looking at a guy who is, at 25 years old, he's just kind of entering into his prime, just turned 26. 97th percentile arm length. So this is a hammer prototypical X wide receiver. You're seeing the things float around the X Twitterverse that this is this generation's Julio. I don't know that I'm willing to go that far, but Nico Collins is awesome. And so when you're downgrading, I would have to be, if I'm going to send Nico Collins out the door, I would have to be acquiring massive capital to come in to give me a chance to re-roll at replacing that production, which DJ Moore did finish as the wide receiver 6 in 2023. However, we live in a very dynamic and different world then. Now they've added Colston Loveland, the 10th overall pick. They've added Luther Burden, who's, led the NCAA in missed tackles forced and is one of the most dynamic, one could argue the most dynamic threat after the catch in the entire draft class. So if I'm sending Nico Collins out the door, I would need a little bit more certainty that I'm going to have an opportunity to acquire something that can replicate 70 to 80% of that production, and then 2 more chances to do so as well.
And Nico Collins tends to be at the back end of the hammer tier of wide receivers, but about halfway through the season last year, CeeDee Lamb versus Nico Collins, it was a 1-for-1 conversation where people were towards Nico Collins prior to his injury. And then back of the first round on Underdog is Nico Collins. Same for Fast Draft. On Fast Draft, Nico is 9th overall. Nico last year, 3rd in yards per route run, was number 1 in targets versus man. So you are not guarding him 1-to-1. So maybe there's some of those Julio comparisons where it's like, hey, you just put one guy on him, you're way out of luck. So that hamstring injury did pull down Nico some. So I think if a deal like this was from Dynasty Daddy and we put it to a poll, this is happening out in leagues. Go out and fish for some offers. That's my take, is fish for some offers for Nico Collins. Chev, what's the last word on this deal?
If the only thing that I would consider seeking out a trade for Nico for would be to tier up into that foundational cornerstone wide receiver, Nico Collins, for Nico Collins plus whatever to acquire a CeeDee Lamb or potentially a Malik Neighbors, or, adding a little bit of something on top to get a guy like Drake London or BTJ, just because they're a touch younger. Puka Nacua, like those guys, I'm trading Nico to acquire something to tier up. I wouldn't necessarily want to tier down because you're taking that certainty out of your lineup, but I would have to do that in order to acquire draft picks, like more draft picks. I wouldn't take a 28-year-old in order to acquire Nico Collins.
Yeah, this tier down to DJ Moore, it just feels just uncomfortable enough. Like you like what DJ Moore could do in 2025. We see the upside path with the ascension of Caleb Williams, but it's just a little bit where you just don't quite feel right. And you want to feel comfortable when you're dealing your hammer. Shout out to DD Fantasy Football, Shane Manila, Scott Connor. Love you guys. Next trade here, we have Jayden Reed for Bhayshul Tuten in the 27 round 3 pick. This is a little bit of a build thing. 1 QB, 10 teams, start 9, full PPR. But in many league formats, the trade wouldn't really change too much. If you need a wide receiver, I think you go for Jayden Reed. Bhayshul Tuten right now, I would say it's even. Tuten, Etienne, Bigsby for opportunity. We hear about this fumble in the dead of the offseason here that Bhayshul Tuten have. How much do you read into the ball security thing for Tuten? Right now, I got to say, Chev, in the Origins rookie tournaments, I've been drafting Tuten in the second round a ton. If I win this tournament, it's going to be on the back of somebody like Tuten. Right now, 13th on our rookie ranks. That includes Superflex and Tight End Premium at Player Profiler. What do you make of the Tuten ball security and this trade?
I think that it's definitely a problem. I believe he had 406 touches in the last 2 years and fumbled on 9 of those. So that's significant, especially when you compare him to what many consider to be a blue chip prospect in this class. Travion Henderson, 667 touches, 0 fumbles. So it's a thing. And then you get the rumors about him putting the ball on the ground on the first play of OTAs with the Jaguars. So essentially, this trade comes down to if I'm trying to get a stronger, more certain flex play because I'm just looking to add points to my lineup, I'd do this trade 10 out of 10 to acquire Jayden Reed because of the fact that I have plenty of time to figure out how to get that 2027 third back. I've got this potentially, if you haven't done your 2025 rookie drafts, you have 2025, 20 and 2026 leading up to the 2027 draft to figure out how to get that back. So essentially you're just sending Bhayshul Tuten and then adding about 12 PPR points per game into your lineup. So for me, this is lightning bolt, 5 lightning bolts, Jayden Reed all day long and twice on Sunday.
It's funny, we don't hear too often these slam dunk, forget about it, Jayden Reed, take him trades. A lot of it is this reluctance to buy into what Jayden Reed can do. I kind of wonder, Chev, anything to Jayden Reed when he reached out to the Green Bay Packers. David Bakhtiari had some analysis that, hey, the team just kind of butter you up, and it really isn't true noise about Jayden Reed being the wide receiver 1. Do you see the possibility of Jayden Reed making his way out of Green Bay, a la how George Pickens ended up on the outs and traded to the Cowboys? Could we look up one day in the next 3-4 months and Jayden Reed gets traded, or is that just complete fiction?
I think so. I think that the interesting thing about what the Packers did here was you have three wide receivers for them from the 2021 draft class in Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, and Samori Toure, who's still on that roster somehow, 7th-round pick from that draft. They're all in contract years. They're not going to re-sign all three of those guys. They may re-sign none of those guys. You took Savion Williams in the 3rd round. So and now you have Matthew Golden. So essentially, you've insulated yourself from the potential loss of those guys going out the door. We're assuming that Christian Watson is probably on the way out due to his injury issues and injury woes. Get well soon, freak athlete. Romeo Doubs has been nice and steady, so he might get a team-friendly deal, but he hasn't been anything significant from a fantasy perspective. Personally, I land on the side of Jayden Reed because he produced 21 explosive plays. That was 3rd at the wide receiver position in 2024. And so for me, I'm taking that certainty. Now, a lot of people are saying that Bhayshul Tuten could be this year's Bucky Irving, but that's such a rarefied air to hit for him to come out and produce, on a per game basis as a running back, fringe running back one on a per game basis, with the snap share. He tied Alvin. He's the only running back since Alvin Kamara to do it on 50% of the snaps. So you're asking to fit a camel through a keyhole when you start talking about one of those guys who's a day 3 pick being equivalent to a Bucky Irving you can say that you saw it coming, but nobody saw him finishing as the RB13 overall after, his combine testing and the way that he performed. And we're on the opposite side of the spectrum for, Bhayshul Tuten because he blew up at the combine. If you follow the Jaguars, James Gladstone, Ellen the GM, that was one of their priority gets prior to the combine, and the combine just blew that out of the water. So I can understand why you would be on the Bhayshul Tuten side. Like I said, I'm on the Jayden Reed side because I think that he's going to take a step forward this year. I mean, we haven't eclipsed 100 targets yet, and there's still so much room for growth for a guy like Jayden Reed that I'm still going to leave the light on for him to take a step forward. And if I'm contending, 12 points a game in my flex is not nothing.
So here's a bearish outlook, a bullish outlook for Jayden Reed. And when you acquire Jayden Reed, you just have to take on the fact that there's range of outcomes, and there's going to be the bearish and the bullish that you're willing to live with or without. Bearish, 63% snap share is a problem for Jayden Reed. 75 targets is a problem. But for bullish, 11th in yards per reception at 15.6. And last year, 3rd in yards per target at 11.4. So the truth lies somewhere in the middle, that first half start for Jayden Reed to the second half. But can we get that consistency weeks 1 through 17 with some full health? We shall see. Next up, we have Ricky Pearsall for Rome Odunze and Bhayshul Tuten. This one is wild. We're doing a fantasy football podcast. This also feels like basketball right now because I think there's a slam dunk to be had here. Chev, you tell me first which side you want.
First of all, I'm coming down the court like prime Lakers Shaq on this one. Fast break, 2 dribbles from half court. I'm taking off, and I'm putting both hands on the rim as I slam dunk and push Chris Dudley into the upside down. I'm on the Rome and Bhayshul Tuten side. Everything that we just said about Bhayshul Tuten, those are all positive things about how the team that drafted him feels about him. So we're entering into this, and then you get one of my blue chip assets from the 2024 draft to go along with the fact that you're getting a guy who's a freak athlete at the running back position, ball security issues aside. So I'm not as bullish on Ricky Pearsall. I know he did get the first round draft capital, but the 49ers do run an alarming rate of 12 personnel, which means that he's going to be battling with Juwan Jennings, who the team did extend to be on the opposite side of Brandon Ayuk when he gets back on the field. So I'm on the Rome Odunze and Bhayshul Tuten side. Slam dunk, both hands, Shaq on the rim, pulling it down and delaying the game because I am so excited about being on that side of the trade.
Hey, Rome Odunze last year, 3 touchdowns total. There's a whole lot more to be had there. Keenan Allen is out of the way. Rome Odunze is a huge target, needs to be utilized more in the red zone. I'm very excited for Rome Odunze. I would venture to say that I would go Rome Odunze over Pearsall 1-for-1. I would run for that because I'm more confident that Brandon Ayuk is going to get on track and healthy to be the wide receiver 1 if we're going to pick somebody in San Francisco over Ricky Pearsall. And then you just have the bonus effect of Bhayshul Tuten, 4.32 speed, 105.5 athleticism score for Bhayshul Tuten, 4th best in this class for running backs, over 1,100 yards his final season. The last 2 seasons, this is huge. Bhayshul Tuten, 27 receptions, 22. That's a good sign for consistency in the pass game level. And everything we talked to in the prior trade about our reluctance on Tuten because of ball security, you don't have to worry about ball security because you're just getting a bonus running back on top of this 1-for-1 roam for Pearsall. So whoever was on this side of Ricky Pearsall needs to be asking for something extra, even a third, or I would even want to push for a second because I'd like
very hard for a second. I'm in
you gotta
total
go
alignment with you there. Yeah.
That's tough. That person may have to be drug tested, so we shall see.
Yeah, this is just
they got to pee in a cup.
Before we move on from that trade, I just wanted to throw out there, Odunze in 2024 had 59 catchable targets. He finished with 54 receptions.
Oh.
So
do with that information what you will.
Yes.
Last one we have Travis Etienne and the 26 round 3 pick for Chuba Hubbard. Travis Etienne is very topical because in the news, what has been happening with the Jaguars running backs, Bhayshul Tuten fumbles, and then all of a sudden people are like, hey, wait a second, Travis Etienne might not be so bad this year. There could be a bounce back effect there. I liken it to all three with Bigsby, Etienne, and Tuten to have competition even, and whoever plays the best is going to get the best this first year out of the gate with Liam Cohen. And I've postulated all offseason I would love to see Travis Etienne traded somewhere, but that's fiction and maybe a degree of mental illness because it's fabricated in my brain before it even doesn't even happen, right? So Etienne is on the Jaguars, but on the other side is Chuba Hubbard. Chuba Hubbard, ironically, did not come away with too much as far as competition. Jonathan Brooks is not going to be back. I really thought that there was a visit for Travion Henderson, and I really thought that the Panthers were going to pull the trigger, and they'd like to duplicate some of what Montgomery and Gibbs, Sonic and Knuckles, are doing up in Detroit. Chuba Hubbard, though, who was it that they brought in? Rico Dowdle, is that right?
They brought in Rico Dowdle, and they drafted Trevor Etienne in the 4th round.
To me, that's really not great competition, and I'm bullish on Chuba Hubbard. What are your thoughts, Chev?
This is Porsche to paperclip. I mean, paperclip to Porsche for me. If you're going from Travis Etienne, now he does have the potential to bounce back in 2024. In 2025. In 2024, he was abysmal on multiple occasions, and that's enough for me to say, hey, if I'm going to be able to just send off a 2026 3 and Travis Etienne to get Chuba Hubbard, I'm doing that all day and twice on Sunday because of the fact that Chuba Hubbard was one of the most effective bell cows in the game of fantasy football for 2024. 293 opportunities, a little over 1,300 yards in 15 games, 11 total touchdowns, 13th in points per game last year. So for me, this is the guy that Dave Canales wants to build the running game around. We know Dave Canales will trust one workhorse running back. We saw the breakout season from Rachaad White because of the pure volume that he got forced in 2023. So I'm very bullish on Chuba Hubbard because of that. And I would, if this is all I had to do to acquire it, I would ship that 10 times out of 10.
And it's funny, league format, this is 2 quarterback, 12 teams, start 12, half PPR, 1.25 tight end premium. I think you could just rattle off any kind of settings in this trade, and outcome would be there for the Chuba Hubbard side over Etienne in the 26th, 3rd round pick. Chuba Hubbard, some bullish stuff for him. 4th in opportunity share last year, 8th in rushing yards, 43 receptions, was 13th. So no slouch. It's not like he's at the very top, but hey, better than purgatory. And 9th in routes run and route participation. Chuba is not just a one-way player. Etienne, if we want to sell the bullish nature, we have to go back to 2023, where Etienne was 7th in fantasy points per game, 3rd in weighted opportunities, but that's yesterday's price for him. And then for 2024 in weighted opportunities, Travis Etienne, 28th. In 2023, this is just how far things have fallen. 58 receptions was 6 for running backs for Etienne. 476 yards receiving was 5th. For the receptions and receiving yards in 2024, Travis Etienne, 29th and 19th, respectively. You just can't pass up what is there for Chuba Hubbard, especially this might be a little bit of a different conversation if it's Travion Henderson, Quinshon Judkins, some kind of elite or stud running back. But even then, I would still think I'd have to lean on the Chuba Hubbard side. So this is all a market thing based on the price and who's across. Some deals we may like Travis Etienne. Across the way, we found some deals that we liked for Jayden Reed and didn't love. We were very bullish on the Reed for the Tuten trade, but then not so much with the Packers and 49ers trade that we had between Purdy and Love, Pearsall, and of course Jayden Reed. So everything is a market here. Chev, any last thoughts?
Just remember, if you're giving up the best player in the trade, you need to be happy with what's coming back. Otherwise, you're just doing someone else a favor.
Well, there you have it. We are the trade gods.
From the Podfather to you, I deeply appreciate you tuning in. And many ask, what can I do? What can I do to help support the hosts, the research they do, the production costs? Go to playerprofiler.com, Dynasty Deluxe, World Famous Draft Kit, Rankings, DFS Dominator, and of course, data analysis. Subscribe to any one of those, and you support all of us and take Player Profiler to the moon.